Good Shabbos. Women and inheritance. Who inherits their parents? Is it the male children or is it all their children? Well, it would seem from an episode in this week's portion that primarily the ones to inherit are the male children, and that seems to be extremely unfair. The episode in the Parsha that we're speaking about is that the daughters of Tzlafchad, a fellow who passed away, who died at the beginning of the Jews' sojourn through the desert, they come along when Moshe Rabbeinu is now telling the people how the land should be divided amongst the Jewish people and amongst the tribes. They come and say, hey, our father had no sons, and it seems like the way things are running here, we're not going to get a portion in the land of Israel, neither us, nor so our father's memory will be totally lost, because he will not have a section, a portion in Israel, and his children won't have. And so what happens is that they go to the courts. They go to the lower court, which brings it to a higher court, and ultimately they come to the court of Moshe Rabbeinu in front of everybody. Moshe is there, Elazar the high priest is there, all the leaders of the Jewish people are there. This became the talk of town, so to speak. This was the issue that people were dealing with. How is Moshe going to respond to the request and demands of the daughters of Tzlafchad? And Moshe, as soon as they tell him what they want, he says, I'm going to bring it to Hashem to tell me what to say and what to do. And Hashem comes along and says, they are right. The daughters of Tzlafchad will get a portion in the land of Israel because they had no brothers. If they had brothers, then the brothers would inherit their father's share. But because they had no brothers, they are the ones to inherit the parents' father's share. So first of all, I want to deal with a simple question that people might think, hold on, this seems unfair. So I want to explain a little bit the system that the Torah put in place for the purpose of safeguarding the dignity and well-being of the Jewish woman. But first of all, the Torah also wanted to safeguard that each tribe should be able to have control over their real estate, their properties. And so therefore, if a woman would inherit her father, then she would get married to a person from another tribe, and they would have children, and her children would inherit her. Her children would be part of a different tribe. So, for example, the daughters of Tzlafchad were tribe of Menashe. Say they married men from the tribe of Yehuda, then all of a sudden within the section set aside for Menashe, there'll be a bunch of people from Yehuda owning property. And so that's something the Torah wanted to avoid, and therefore made the rule that it is the man who inherits his father, and so therefore the property remains in the estate of that, in the domain of that tribe. The question, however, is, but what's about the woman? It seems extremely unfair. Well, if you look at the Ketubah, and if you know the laws associated with the Ketubah, as I mentioned earlier, the Torah wants to make certain that the dignity and the protection of the Jewish woman is taken care of. So really the halacha is like this. In 95, if not 99% of cases where there's not so much money in the inheritance, the ones who get it first are the wife and the daughters. The wife and the daughters must be fed, housed, clothed first, before the sons. If there isn't enough money for them to also give the sons, then only they get it, and the sons have to be the ones who go house to house to collect the money. This is so until they get remarried or until the daughters reach maturity. The wife, until she gets remarried, and if she never gets remarried, she will be taken care of by the estate before the sons inherit. That's very important. So what the Torah is making sure is that the Jewish woman is always going to be taken care of. The Jewish woman did not inherit, but on the other hand, she didn't have responsibility financially, not for her husband, not for her children. It was the man's responsibility to feed his wife and children. Now she had a choice. She says, look, I could work and I can make my own money. I don't need your feeding and I'll keep my own money. And that's what she's able to do if she wants to. But if she's unable to do that, and if she wouldn't have a way to support herself, the Torah tried to put a safety net around women and their daughters, that they should be taken care of in case there isn't enough money. It is only when someone was wealthy that then the inheritance of the wealthy person, after taking care of the needs of the wife and the daughters, went to the son. So that's the first thing to understand. Now, in relation to the daughters of Tzlafchad themselves, well, how is it that they came along and wanted to change a law of the Torah? And the answer is, the daughters of Tzlafchad had another promise, because their father left Egypt. And when the Jewish people went out of Egypt, God said to them, I'm going to take you out of Egypt, and I'm going to bring you to the land of flowing milk and honey. I'm bringing you to Israel, and you're going to have a portion of the land of Israel. So they say, hey, God promised our father that he's going to have a portion in the land of Israel. Why should he miss out? Just because he has no sons. We are his prodigy. We come from him. We should have a portion. And indeed, Hashem said that they're right. The question is, why did it have to come from them? So here the Torah is teaching us a very important idea, ideal, and concept. And that is that not always do we get that which comes to us automatically. We have to ask for it. We have to demand it. They used an expression called Lama Nigara. Why should we miss out? We have FOMO, so to speak. This expression was also used by the people who were impure and weren't able to bring the first Paschal offering. And they said, hey, why should we miss out because we're impure? And God said to Moshe, tell them they're right. They're going to get a second chance a month later after Pesach. They could bring their offering then. So when a Jew says, I want to be close to Hashem, and he says, it looks like what the law doesn't allow me to do so, sometimes within halacha, as long as they go within the framework of halacha, they didn't make, the daughters of Tzlafchad didn't make a press conference and didn't go to the media and didn't make demonstrations. They went to the courts of law, the Beis Din. This is how Jewish law is established. And this is how the process went up the ladder from the lower court to Moshe Rabbeinu to Hashem himself. This is how they did it. That's what made the change. And that's what they cared so much, to be close to Hashem, to have a portion of the Holy Land of Israel that Hashem is present in, and therefore they got what they wanted because of it. It's a story of a couple who, after being married for 10 years, and having no children, there is a concept in halacha that one divorces so that you can have children. So they come to Reb Shimon bar Yochai and they're kind of sad about it, but they say, look, we've been married for 10 years, no children, what shall we do? And he says to them, look, when you're going to divorce, make a party, just like you made a party getting married, make a party and getting divorced. So there was this party in the home, and the husband turns to the wife and says, take anything that you want from my home, choose anything you want. And then he had a little bit too much to drink and he fell asleep, and she tells the servants, please take him to my father's home. So the husband wakes up all of a sudden in his father-in-law's house and he says, hey, what am I doing here? She said, you said I should take whatever's precious, whatever I want. What's the most precious thing to me from your house, I could take for myself. There's nothing more precious than you. They went back to Reb Shimon bar Yochai, he gave him a blessing, and they had children. The question is, why couldn't he give them a blessing originally to have children? The answer is, it wasn't his blessing that gave him the children. It was her saying, there's nothing more precious than you. That was what opened the spigots. That's what brought them the blessing of children. This teaches us, as we are today in the 17th of Tammuz, the day of that we fast because the walls of Jerusalem were breached, and which led 3 weeks later to the destruction of the temple, that we want the temple again. We want to be all in Eretz Yisrael in peace and goodness with the coming of Mashiach. And the way we get it is by demanding and asking Hashem for it. We say, hey Hashem, you promised us. Ad Masai, till when do we have to suffer in exile? Till when do we have to deal with the discord and the situation that we Jewish people are in? We want you to bring Mashiach now. We ask that you bring Mashiach now. And that request in itself will make Hashem give us what we asked for. Good Shabbos.